Hello and welcome to the channel. So we've got a Selmer treble and bass 50 RSV. We've done a few of these on the channel. This one's in for a full service, almost probably a restore really. We need to sort out a few things on this, make sure it's safe. These amps, you know, they do have some safety issues, and already if we just swing around into there, and if we look at that switch, he's not safe straight away. So he's got issues. You can see, in fact, he's just literally, that is just dropping to bits. So that is an issue before we start. That is dangerous. The fact that that's breaking away there is, you know, if that breaks away, you could end up with your thumb exposed inside the switch if you're not careful. So that is dangerous. Standby switch looks okay. Amps in reasonably good condition given its age. It's, you know, 50 years old. So looking in the back, the back plate's missing. Got a couple of Brymer EL34s, very rusty in here. It's been somewhere damp, although this amp has apparently has been used pretty regularly, so we know it runs okay, but it's been somewhere where it's damp again, rusty. Old caps, they'll probably need to be changed. So look at the power cable, not particularly great. See what's going on in there. Got the correct fuse, 3 amps will do for that. That all looks pretty good, but we may end up, but it's a bit again, it's not got the doofers in there, so I think, and it's very rusty, so I think we can say good night to that plug. Although we'll just put the thing back on for the time being, because we may need it for test purposes. So you can see that doesn't look very clever. Power cable's a bit the plastic's starting to harden, so we may need a new power cable on there as well. Chassis seems a bit loose on the front there, you can see when I'm pushing it. So let's get it out the case and we can have a better look. Right, so we're looking inside. You can see we've got seeds and all sorts in here. So yeah, you can see we've got, so very filthy inside. Something else down here. Oh, what is that? Let's look. So if we just look in there, is that some kind of, that looks like some foam, but it's so, I think I'll have that in the dustbin. Some fusty goings on in this amp. So I can see we've got some mullards down there in this amp, and all the preamp tubes are mullards. The reverb's still intact. Whether it works, it's rare on these. They generally don't work on these amps. In fact, I don't think I've found one yet that does, and these tanks are dreadful as well. You can see the rubber mountings there are perished on there as well. These are all perished on here as well. They're usually perished. You can see they're coming apart on there. Right, so we're looking inside. It doesn't look too bad inside actually. We've got some more of that dusky foam though. Caps look a bit ready on the tops there. What's going on here? I think someone's some kind of modification there. We've got this as I think we need to address that. Very strange. Got a sand resistor down here. That capacitor's on the bias. these green caps, they tend to hold up pretty well. They're film cap, says on those. I've seen those before in these. Tend to hold up pretty good. There's one here looking a bit groggy. Looks like there's wax on the board there, or some kind of gumption maybe leaking out that capacitor there. But everything else, trying to look if anyone's been in here apart from this. I don't think this is original. I've not ever seen any of them with that before. These are crumbling away again. You can see there's corrosion in that one. Now the other thing with these amps is that they always have like a ground loop hum on them, and it's to do with this fuse being wired on the negative side, which they did in those days, and it creates a ground loop. We'll wire that on the positive side. It gets rid of it. It needs wiring on the positive side anyway. Now if we look over here, we've got one of those despicable resistors that I don't like, with the pips on the bottom, which I just think are dangerous. That one's been faced up the correct way. That's also been recently added as well, but we'll get rid of that. Don't like those. Those pips are dangerous if they touch the chassis. But other than that, I mean, obviously we've not switched this amp on, so other than that, really, we've got to check, make sure the bolts are tight as well. But the first thing we need to address is that power switch, don't we? That is not safe at all, and we do need a power cord on this. Really, this one is not in great shape. In fact, if here this is really solid. You can see that sort of straight look there, so that means that's on its way out, so we'll be changing that. Now this pot here, you can see this trim pot, this is on the Reverb. I do believe it is on the Reverb, yes. So we don't actually have a trim pot for the bias. So we're going to change these capacitors. Now we've got 4 here in series, because these are 350 volts working, but we've got 500 volts working, and this amp doesn't touch. Well, we'll test it, because all the other amps that I've done haven't touched 500 volts, but we'll test it to make sure. So we need to test with all the tubes out. We need to switch this amp on and see exactly what voltage hits the meter. If it's less than 500 volts, then we're fine with the we'll just use a single cap for each side. We don't then need 4. So we're just looking at this power switch. You can see these, just as we're trying to get this, because we need to get this switch out. You can see these are just done. It's just corroded. You can see those there, and I need to get these off, because we need to swap this switch. And if we look, you can see what's happened here. We open that up, look at the corrosion in there, and we see that often on these amps, so that's really not good, is it? Right, let's have a look at this switch then. Terrible condition. That's done, completely done. And you can see, you probably can't see down there, but you can see a terminal there. It goes to the bulb, that's probably the neon that's in it, and you can see if that split away as you pressed it, it would give you a nasty bite of AC. So yeah, so I'm afraid he's over. And looking at these switches, on the front, they're obviously, they're part of this amp's look, but as much as you like to leave these in, you cannot compromise safety like that. They're just not safe. That has got to go. So here are the output tubes from this amp, and these are brimers, very grubby brimers, but we're going to test those, see if they're okay. Right, let's just have a look at what we've done so far with this amp then. So we've got the electrolytic in there, it's not wired up yet. We have new diodes in there, new star washers underneath there, just to keep that nice and tight. We've removed the ground that went across, and we've now wired that up through the positive line as it should be. So this is now the ground which we're going to put on here now with the rest of these grounds. So we need to get the Dremel on there and clean that off, so we get a good connection. So we've got that to do. What else have we done? So the bias, we've replaced the bias capacitor, and we've replaced this 68k resistor because it was out of tolerance. The 3.9k there, which is dropping the voltage from the separate tapping for the bias on here, that tests perfect. So we've got to wire all this power supply up now. Now I've got the schematic here. So if we look, there's the tap-in 3.9k there. Look, there's the tap-in for the bias. We've got the AC feed coming in rectified, going to these capacitors. We've got a 6.3 filament. We've got a choke there going between the capacitors. Now this set out here has got 200 microfarad capacitors. Well, we've got 4 actually, 2 for each side, making 50 microfarad at 700 volts working each side, because these are 350 volts each. We've got the balancing resistors there, but we don't need any of that because this capacitor here is 550 microfarad plus 50 microfarad at 500 volts working. Now the one thing to check though, and I will check on this, and it was fine on the others, and if we look there, we've got 455 volts there coming off the B plus. Now to be 100% sure, this HT voltage is not going to be over 500 volts when this amp is first switched on. Remember, the voltage is always higher when the tubes aren't conducting. So when you hit the switch, you'll get maximum HT voltage hit that cap, and then as the tubes conduct, it will draw it down. So you have to make sure that's not above 500 volts. So the way to do that is just take all the tubes out, put a meter on it, switch the standby on, and just flick the power switch and just see what the voltage is when it first hits the caps. If it's below 500, you're fine. Now if we go onto the screens on this amplifier now, this brown wire here is for the screens on this amp, and we only have one. If we look across here, we only have one screen resistor. It's shared for both tubes. I don't like this idea. And I don't like this resistor. It's got those bobbles on the bottom there, and if they catch on the chassis, they'll create a dead short. Lousy things. So that's being removed, and we're going to have two separate screen resistors of 1k each on there. So that's like most you see on the Marshalls and things like that. Right, I'm going to have to replace this screen cable going through here because it's very hard, and you probably can't see on there, but that's beginning to crack. So I'm afraid he's got to go. He goes all the way down here up to this resistor there. You can see him there. Right, so we're looking on the schematic now. I've run the screen cable in there. We'll have a look at that in a minute. And we've got the choke here, and we've got that array of resistors there. Should be 5k, which is there. There's the 32 capacitor, and there's the 10k resistor. So if we look on here, you can see there's the screen, the yellow cable. We've used a bit of yellow wire for that, 18 gauge. So if we come along here, you can see that sticking up there near the tubes. These are the wires for the choke there, and the positive that's already put onto the terminal, just needs soldering. This array of resistors should measure 5k, and that goes down onto there, onto the second 50 microfarad there, and then that 10k resistor, if we just hold back, that 10k resistor is there, and that is on there on the schematic. There's the 32, look there, 5k is there. So we need to look at this now, and I'm actually going to measure that and just see what that is. So let's just give it a test and see what it measures. 5.6k, so it's a little over, but not massively. But so I think what I might try and do first of all is I'm going to open this up and just get the shrink tubing off and have a look what we're dealing with there. Doesn't look brilliant though, does it? It looks like a legless centipede or some kind of snake. Right, I've given up on that after 10 seconds of trying to cut through this. I just thought blow that. So we'll look for see if we've got a 5k resistor. Right, we've done a bit more, so we'll just have a look at what we have done. So we've wired up this capacitor now, and we've got a 5k resistor in there going up to there. I've done that. Check that capacitor there, that's okay. Check that resistor there, that's okay. We've got the gland in there, you can just see for the to tighten the cable up there. That's all nice and tight. The new power cable's not wired up yet, but we've got all the wires up there. The ground is though, so the ground's wired up, and you can see we've cleaned the chassis there. We've got a star washer on the bottom of the nut and one on the top. Nip that up. You can see we've got the grounds on here. We've grounded this. Here's the ground from the bridge rectifier. So if we move on to here now, I've been looking over here where this screen is, and the center tap is actually connected here on pin 6, and then this brown wire is here, which we're removing and replacing with this yellow one. And then we're going to take another wire from pin 6 to pin 6 on this tube, and then we're going to wire the screen resistors across there and there. This wire is from pin 5, it's the grid. We can, and if you follow that wire there, it comes down from the bias. And if we look at this wire broken off there, because it's very tired and frail, and you can see someone has severely burnt that with the iron, probably when they were manufacturing it there. So that wire's had it, so we'll change that. So these two here are the coupling caps to the output tubes there, so we need to check those. They are 0.047 47 nanofarad. Need to check these two resistors here to make sure that they've not drifted. They're the grid leaks. And we've got another capacitor here. Need to see on the schematic what that does. That's 100k. That is 82k. Of course, they're on the phase inverter. The plate resistors, duh. They're the plate resistors. They do need checking. We need to make sure those are right. So yes, so we get it there now with this amp. Lot of work, this amp. We're going to sort all this out next, get these grids on, and you can see on this schematic where if we look at this one, is it this one, we just hone in, just bring the camera back to get that shadow off, and then zoom in like so. Just get that in there, that's near enough. So if we look, you can see there's the feed. Can we see that? There. We need to take that up a bit, don't we? And if you look there, you can see there's the feed from the choke and going up. You can see center tap is connected there from that second capacitor, because you can just see that microfarad there. That's the first cap. There's the choke, second cap coming up through there, up through there, up to the center tap there, and then that feeds off to the screens as well. So that's how they've got that wired. and it's just dawned on me what that cap is. It's the oscillation cap across the plate resistors on the phase inverter. Duh. I've been working a while now without having a break. I'm going to go off and have a break because I'm starting to look at things and think, what is that? And that's when you know it's time for a break. Right, so I've got these screen resistors wired up now. So we've sorted that out. We've got 1K in there, 5 watt. The what I'm getting to work on these tube sockets, the filament cable is well, harder than Pat Tate. So I'm getting this sinking feeling that I'm going to have to rewire these filaments, and that is not good. But this is just, they say, this is just solid. It's just awful stuff. Just goes brittle over time. So you can see I've redone the phase inverter here. Some of the components were out of tolerance. These capacitors didn't quite measure up to par. So I've swapped those. We've got a couple of Vishays in there. We swapped the grid leak resistors, swap the plate resistors, and I'm going to swap all the plate resistors in this amp. I don't want this back rustling and frying in 3 months time, so it just made sense. New capacitor on here, Vishay 100 picofarad, and I've also added some screen resistors, because if you look at the schematic on there quickly, you can see that there isn't any at all. As you can see there, no screen resistors, grid stoppers, no grid stoppers. So I've added some grid stoppers, and I've added those. One is there, and because that will reach from the board. The other one is on this wire here, J hooked, and it's the only way I can do that. And then popped it in there. They're not soldered up yet. None of this is. It's just all been placed in. 5.6K. We've got those, which is same as what's on a lot of the Marshalls. So just gone for that. Long tail pair. 82K, 100K plate resistor, and we can see that on here again. If we look on this, we can see, whoops, I lost it then. So you can see coming, here's what we've changed. There's the 82K, there's the 100K, 100 picofarad there, the 0.047 nanofarad, and the other one is there. Duh. Can't see for looking today. Is there. So we've got one there and one there, 47s. So if we look at that now, there's 82, there's the 100, there's the 100 picofarad, and there's the 247 coupling caps. Grid leak resistors, the 220K, they're there. So we've got those on. So that's all done. And if we look at the screen resistors, the 1K is obviously not on there. We've got a shared 2.2, a shared 1.5K there. It's actually 2.2 on some of them, but I think that one was 1.5 that came out. Let's have a look. There it is. Anyway, we can't really see what that is. Some were 2.2 on these, some were 1.5, but he's gone, and we've put in separate 1Ks on each tube. So that's got that together, and we've just got to solder all of that up and make good of it. I've still got these couple of caps to change here, you can see, so those are going to be changed. Right, we're just looking in this Selmer now, and I'm just in the process of changing these capacitors. You see I got the new ones here. If we look at this, there's just dust and crap and all sorts in here. So I think I'm going to take this outside and just clean this down. Just get the wire brush in the drill, get rid of some of these rust areas, and just generally give this a bit of a clean. Got some rust on the transformer there, on the shroud, so probably just get some of that off to make it look a bit more presentable. Right, that looks a bit better. We've got rid of all the dust and the fluff and everything else that's in there. I've just gone over these. I've only just got the rough rust off them there, so they just tidy it up a bit. And need to get all this dust and fluff that's amassed over the years, because if ever anything in this amp should catch light, all that stuff will burn. I've got these caps in now, done here, and you can see I've added a new resistor across there, because the other one wouldn't reach, not without laying it across. Now I didn't have a 27k, this is the last one on the chain going down the nodes, so I've just put a 22 in there, and that'll be fine, there's no problem. So let's just have a bit of a look. I've also had to change this wire here, because this was tucked under the board, and when I pulled it out, you can see there, you perhaps can't see, but that's just going through to the core, so that's had to go. I had to put a new one on there. So it just pays just to have a bit of a scan at these wires, just to make sure that somebody's probably nipped that or something, and when they were building it, and it's just got shoved under the board. Probably never touch anything, but it don't look good, does it? So from this 5k, this red wire here through the 10k, that then feeds this 27, that goes down to the stages, the plates, and then from this 10k again we get another resistor, 22k, that goes to here, feeds this yellow wire, and that actually goes to these 2 plate resistors here. So you can see the 3 wires we have there, yellow, purple and green, and you can see yellow goes there, and we connect it up. Purple's already in there. Look at him. Oh, look at him as well, he's got nipped. It's only on the edge there, we'll trim that back. And then green is there, and that is going off to a single plate. That maybe could be on the Reverb or something, I don't know on that one. I haven't really scanned the schematic to that, and look at that, look, it's just fallen off. No surprise there. So yeah, we'll just remake that. And this is what's happening, all these wires are just falling off. It's just old and tired, so we've just got to make it good again. I've got the preamp tubes back in, because I have to do that before I put the reverb tank back in. I tested the preamp tubes, one had shorts, so I found another mullard, actually, a bit of a grubby looking one, but it tested okay, and these look a bit grubby anyway, so it looks like it's always been there. So that sorted that problem out. So you can see now, if we pull back, we can see the new caps there, and we've had a bit of a clean up in here. It's starting to look much better. Now I'm going to turn my attention to this as well, and then I'm going to wire up the power switch. Now this is the standby switch, and this we need to sort out because of these the insulation on this switch, as you can see. What insulation, I hear you say. Yeah, so those, I think somebody may have replaced that one, at some time, but yeah, or maybe that's what they were like before they dried out, I don't know. So I'm going to change this insulation on these. Now I've got a feeling that when I pull these off, got a feeling when we pull these off, oh no, but look at them inside, these things are grubby and filthy, so I'm going to cut them off, clean up these contacts, and I'm going to solder those straight on there and put some new insulation on them. So I just disconnected the wires underneath. I've put some shrink tubing on each of the spades on the switch, and then I've put this big, in fact that's what that looks like actually there, we pop that round the switch, and I've put a tie wrap round there, and there we've nipped the tie wraps up as we've heated this up and shrunk it, and that is much safer now, much better. We've got this on the variac and the current limiter, and we've got a meter here monitoring the voltage, HT voltage, and I've got one down here monitoring the bias. Turn off this light a bit there, and you can see the current, the bulb on the current limiter is is limiting. Not very bright. I'm just going to turn up now, and you can see the bulb's getting brighter. Voltage is now going up on the meter. So I've got the variac at 186 volts. I've got 42 volts on this meter now. The bulb is holding that down. That's only a 15 watt bulb. So we're going to go steady, because we put in voltage carefully into these capacitors. So we'll get another that's looking reasonable. Got -3 volts on the bias, which, right, now I'm going to pop in a 25 watt bulb. You can see there. You can't quite see that one, it's just off camera. There. And now we've got 140 volts now, and we've got 10 volts on the bias, so that's looking good. We just let these caps come up steady. Still can't hear anything yet coming out the speaker. Right, so I put 200 volts now on the variac, and that's brought me up to 186 on there. You can see the bulbs have got a bit brighter. So I'm now going to put a 40, take the 25 out. See that globe there? Now I'm going to put a 40 in there. Now that's going up now. You can see we've now got 240 and climbing on the plate voltage. Well, the B plus. And we've got 18.63 on the bias. Bulbs are dim, so all's looking good. Can hear a bit of something coming out the test speaker now. I'm just going to shut the door now. So let's get a lead and let's see if we've got any juice owner. I think we have. We have got juice owner. That's good. So we'll just leave that in so we can hear it. Little bit of frying there, but again, that could be those plate resistors. So you can hear that frying away. Right, let's shall we increase the bulb some more? Yes, why not? So let's put another 40 in there, and then we'll have 80 watts. So there we go, and the bulbs are really dim now. Voltage is creeping up, and you can hear the amps getting louder. So let's just take that out. So yes, as we, yeah, a lot of frying going on there. Right, let's right, so the bias has gone above 20 volts. So is there something wrong with one of these tubes? That's suddenly gone loud, hasn't it? But that doesn't sound good, does it? So we've got 20 volts on the bias. Let's just going to test down the line and see what we've got. So let's go down to the phase inverter onto the plates. We've got 199 volts, so that seems about right. See what we've got on here. 214. What we've got on there. 119. Yeah, so that's all looking pretty good. Right, let's put that voltage up now to 240 on the variac. That doesn't sound good, does it? $280 volts now on the plate voltage, 22.4 on the bias, so that's all looking pretty good. But apart from the frying, wonder if that's a preamp tube. I do hope not. Of course, I've got to take the reverb unit out to get to them, haven't I? Not good. Right, so I've got a 60 watt bulb in there now with the 40, so now we've got 100, and you can see, just see that's lit slightly but not excessively. Voltages, plate voltage is over 300 volts now, and we've got 24 volts on the bias, 24.5 volts, so that's looking pretty good. But we do have that frying. Let's do a bit of chopsticking. Ooh, something's microphonic, isn't it? That'll be a preamp tube, because these power amp tubes are fine. My days. So that's very noisy. So I have to say, those I have got this amp turned up flat out, mind you, but obviously we need it up flat out because we need to check to make sure that there is no faults such as frying, and we've got quite a lot there. Quite excessive, that. Breakfast at 7:10 at night. Right, so I'm going to take him out and I'm going to put 100 in there now, and we'll zoop him up a little bit. Now that's pushing up now, and you can hear things are getting quite loud now. 242 plate volts, 27 on the bias. Dearie me. Let's just turn the volumes down. Another thing I want to check is that reverb, you know. I wonder if you need the foot switch in for that, because I've got it turned full up. I don't hear anything. Right, let's see which channel's got that frying on. Well, that one has. See about the other one. Little bit on that channel. So is that the treble channel? Yeah, tiny bit in the background. So it's this bass channel that's got, it's making all the noise, and the reverb does work, I think. Yep, seems to work. I can hear the spring going anyway, but we'll turn that down now. So that seems to. Yeah, so we have got a fair bit of the front of the frying's getting better now. I mean, to be fair, I've not cleaned these pots yet because I've not got around to looking at the front panel part. Right, 27 on the bias, 337, that's all looking good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove that 40 and put in another 100. Now I've got the plate. Just check those tubes are not red plating. Now they look good, because remember, we don't know the history of them. So 370 plate volts now. 300 volts, 370 volts on the HT. I keep saying plate volts, but I've not got that connected to the plate, but it won't be much less. And the bias is at 29.5. So that's all looking good. So we just at 300, and you probably can't see that. In fact, we'll put a big light back on now, because we know we've scanned the current limit above. So 374 now we've got there. So now I'm going to check to see if we've got any leakage anywhere. 85 volts, nothing. 131, nothing. Yeah. 137, yeah, nothing there either. That's all good. All good. I've measured the windings on the transformer, and we've got 68R on this tube here on the right, and we've got 62.3 on the left one there. Let's do a check on the bias. So there and there. 2.88 we've got there. .88 does seem a bit hot to me. 2.88, and we've got 68R. Now let's just see what plate volts we've got, because we're measuring B plus, not plate, and there will be a drop on this transformer, I'm guessing. 437. So I have to say that this is running a bit hot. 439 that says. So I think, and it does smell a little warm. 439. So I think a quick blast on the calculator will tell us that we need to change the bias. So let's see. So we'll take our 2.88, we'll divide it by 68, and that's 42 milliamps, 42.3. Let's times that by our 439. But we're not that far over. We are over 18.5 watts, so we are a little bit over there, but not massively, but that is over. So 18.5 on that side. Let's try the other side. dear, oh dear, that's not been soldered very well. That plate, my word. 2.85 on that side. 2.85 divided by 62.3, that's 45 milliamps, so a little bit hotter on that side, aren't we? And if we times that by our 439, oh, 20 watts. So these tubes aren't brilliantly matched either. 20 watts back on the nose, that 20 watts on the nose, 18.59, so they're 1.5 watts out, not massively out, but that biases. So we need to alter that, don't we? Right, so we've changed those plate resistors and I've biased the amp up. So the tubes are about 1.5 watts out. I've now got them biased. Remember, we'd got one of them at 20.5. The other one was 18.5, something like that. Or no, we got one at 20 watts and one at 18.5. We've now got 16.5 and 18.1, so slightly over on one and a watt under on the other, and that's near enough for this. It'll be fine. So that's the bias sorted out, and to do that all I did was changed the let me see if I can find something to point with, because this thing's switched on. So this is now 750. This is now 75k, and it was 68k before, so we've just increased that slightly, and that's done the job. So that's sorted out. We've changed the plate resistors, you can see here, and I've used metal film because this amp's used in a recording studio, so the quieter we can make it, the better. So 220k, we've changed those, and a couple of 100k's there. If we go to this channel now, and that's with the presence full up and the treble full up, so if that's flat out, so no faintest, tiniest maybe frying in the background, it's hard to tell on this test speaker. And then if we look at the other channel, which has a lot more gain, and you can hear there's still some frying in the background there, and that'll be these carbon comp resistors that are still left in this, more than likely, that are still left in here. I hate the things. And all this, you know, some people say, oh, it's mojo and all that, but I'm sorry, in my experience swapping all these out, I've had some amazing sounding amps using metal film resistors, just sound awesome. But it is there, and it's only when this amp is really cranked up, you really can't hear it when it's, and even it's negligible. So for the sake of going in this and changing every single resistor, it's passable, that is. Well, it's more than passable. It's very faint in the background. You can hear this, it's there, but it's very faint. So I think that'll be fine. And this amp's not going to be used cranked flat out. And to be fair, even if it is, there'll be so much more noise. You won't hear that, it's so faint. So what's left to do on this amp now? Well, not very much now. We need to change these two capacitors here, these bypass capacitors, and we need to just check the controls on the front, which seem pretty much all right. I tend not to like spraying controls if they're not, you know, some people clean them as a matter of course. I prefer not to spray them if they're not crackly. So those aren't too bad at all. So there's those to change. We need to check the tone stacks on the front of the panel on the other side there. So we need to check that out. And the only other thing is we need to put a plug on it, because I had to put the old one back on because I'd run out of these, so I went and fetched some this morning. So we're going to put a new plug on there as well, and that should just about do this, you know, I think. Obviously we need to get it on the scope and just check things out, check this phase inverter on the scope, but we're pretty much good to go with this amp now. Right, I've got this Selmer all up and running. The light in the standby switch is intermittent, so sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. But other than that, everything seems to be together. Scoped it out and everything's fine on the scope. So we're in the normal channel. Plenty of scope on this amp with the treble and the present. Very bassy amp as well. That out. Very clean and bell-like tone, but a lot of bass. All the coupling caps in this amp are 47 nanofarad, so Let's try the other channel. The reverb works loads better on that channel. That's strange. Let's have a look at the schematic and see how that's wired. There's not really any difference between these channels if you look on the schematic. Today. So there we go. That's a bit of a listen at that. It's beautiful clean tones as these amps are. That reverb's not bad, you know, now I've actually dropped that. That surprised me. That's beautiful tone. So that'll do it for this one. So it's been a long one this. So thanks for watching. You all take care and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye bye for now.